Shocks asks on the Excel subreddit how to have a formula apply to any row it is imported into. I am using a program that exports a formula to my Google Sheet. With this, I have this formula to make the formula apply to the row of that it is exported to. And then he gives us a formula. And very importantly, that formula uses a combination of the row and indirect functions. What the row function does, it gives you the current row number of whatever cell the row function is inputted into. And what the indirect function allows you to do is to indirectly reference a cell. So for example, if we are using this formula in the first row, then row would equal 1. And so indirect would reference cell C1 in this case. And so then he's checking if the cell C1 is empty or is not empty, and then he's doing something. So then he tells us this works great. Now I want to apply this to the following formula. So he gives us another formula that has a similar approach. And so what the second formula is doing is first looking to see if this value exists on the current sheet, column C, by looking at anything in that column in previous rows. If it finds that value, it writes the current month. If not, it looks for the value on the old order sheet. If it finds it there, it writes reorder. If neither condition is found, it leaves it blank. I want to have the formula similar to the first one in the sense that it automatically applies to the row it is exported to. Thanks for any help. So the way how we will have to transform the second formula is also through the use of indirect and row formulas, as those allow you to reference the current row that the formula is written into. Let's rename this sheet to old orders. And in column C, let's input some order numbers, I believe. So A, B, C, D, F, G, G, H. And then we're creating a new sheet. And so in column C, we will also be writing these order numbers. Something like that. Okay, so now let's take the function that was provided and input it. Now we have to input it here on the second row, like this. And I'll immediately pull it through to see what it does. Okay, so now let's take a look at what's actually going on here. So as you can see, first we're doing a count if. So we're checking if this value, this EF, is in the list above it. Now, probably it's best if I use this one as another example, because that's more clear. You can see we're checking all the other values above to see if the current value appears there. In other words, has a current order number, I'll call this, appear before, right? So then it will be bigger than 0. If that's the case, then we take today's date and we extract from that the month. So that's exactly what's happening. That's how we get December. Now let's take this example here of CD. As you can see, it currently has not appeared before. So what we're then doing is we're looking in the old orders column C, so in the sheet of old orders column C, and we're looking for this value of C4. Now if we find this value, meaning that the match function will return a number, then we write reorder, otherwise we don't write anything at all. So in this case, CD does actually reappear here, so that's why we're getting reorder, whereas with DY, it does not appear in this old ordered list, so that's why we get nothing. Now, this function only works correctly because we manually pulled this through. What I assume that Shocks wants to achieve is that he can simply input this formula in whatever cell and it will automatically adapt to the row number. So in order to achieve that, we will have to change the formula a little bit. The parts that we will have to change are the ones referencing these cells, of course. So here we are referencing C1 up until C3. So this we will have to change. The C3 will have to be such an indirect reference. Same for C4 over here and C4 over here. Okay, so like in the example formula that was provided, we will have to use a combination of row and indirect. Now let's first start with this C4 one over here. So we'll wrap this in an indirect function like this. And so then C we place in between double quotation marks. And now we have to add to this the row number. So I use an ampersand to concatenate two strings, and I replace the for with the row function that will return the current row number. Now I will copy this and paste it where we use the C4 here as well, because these are duplicate formulas. We need to use that in both. Now we need a similar approach for this C3, but it's a little bit tougher because we need to make the entire range an indirect cell reference. So I'll paste it over here as well, but we'll have to do some more changing. So here we write a $sign to fixate the 1 so that we always start from the start. And then we go to C and we take the row number, but not the current row number, but the previous row number. So we subtract 1 from the current row number. And now we can delete the old variable over here that was over there. And we also need to put another parentheses over here. Now let's press enter to see if this still works. There we go, that was actually reorder. And now we can also pull this through. This should still work. This is of course a ref. Now let's simply copy this formula. And so remove all of this and simply paste it in whatever cell we like this one. As you can see, it still works. So CD, that should give a reorder, and DY should give nothing. So we've adapted the formula so that we're no longer reliant on pulling it forwards, but it directly gets its reference through these row and indirect formulas.